From the outside, her life looked fine. The house was clean, the firewood stove was always lit. Every day followed the same routine. But inside her mind, nothing was in order. She lived in constant urgency, always late, always tired, always fixing problems instead of building anything solid. Not because she worked too much, but because her life had no direction. No one noticed her quiet exhaustion. No one heard the noise inside her head. Until one ordinary day, she realized something unsettling. Everything in nature followed order. The seasons, the sun, the work of the hands. Everything except her life. That's when she made a decision that would change everything. Not loudly, not publicly, not with announcements. She chose to organize her life in silence. Before we continue, like, subscribe, and share this video. It helps this message reach people who need clarity, not motivation. Now, stay with the full story. Her name doesn't matter. That was the first lesson hidden inside her story. She lived in the 1950s in a small countryside home where life followed simple rhythms. The mornings began early, the floor was swept, bread was baked, the stove stayed warm. To anyone passing by, her life looked organized, even peaceful. But inside, she was drowning. Her days were filled with urgency, not purpose. She moved constantly, yet arrived nowhere. Every task felt late. Every responsibility felt heavier than it should. Her mind jumped from worry to worry, never resting. She wasn't lazy. She wasn't careless. She was mentally disorganized. She lived reacting. If something broke, she fixed it. If someone asked, she said yes. If a problem appeared, she ran toward it. But she never stopped to ask where her life was actually going. At night, when the house finally went quiet, the chaos grew louder. Thoughts raced. Unfinished tasks replayed themselves. Promises she had made and broken whispered back at her. She blamed time. She blamed fatigue. She blamed life itself. But deep down, she sensed a truth she didn't want to face. She was living without structure. One afternoon, after an exhausting day that felt identical to all the others, she stepped outside. The air was calm. The land around her followed a rhythm older than memory. Nothing rushed. Nothing wasted energy. Nothing moved without purpose. That contrast hit her harder than any crisis. Nature was orderly. Her life was improvised. In that quiet moment, she understood something that would guide everything that came next. Disorder wasn't her enemy. Lack of direction was. She didn't need motivation. She didn't need help. She didn't need to announce change. She needed rules. Not rules written on paper, rules written into behavior. And so she made a decision that felt almost invisible to others, but monumental to her. She would stop talking about change. She would stop explaining herself. She would stop waiting for permission. From that day on, she would act in silence. No speeches, no promises to others, no dramatic transformations. Just quiet, disciplined action. She didn't know yet how difficult it would be. She didn't know how uncomfortable responsibility feels when there's no one else to blame. But she knew one thing with absolute clarity. If her life was going to become ordered, it would be built quietly, one decision at a time. And that was only the beginning. The real problem wasn't the work. It wasn't the lack of time. It wasn't the people around her. The problem was that everything felt equally urgent. Her days had no hierarchy, no priorities, no clear limits. Every request mattered. Every task demanded attention. Every unfinished thing stayed open in her mind like a wound. She lived in reaction mode. If someone needed help, she helped, even when she was exhausted. If something could be done later, she postponed it, even when it mattered. If something felt uncomfortable, she avoided it, telling herself she'd return to it tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. The breaking point wasn't dramatic. No illness, no loss, no public failure. It was a moment of unbearable repetition. One morning, she realized she was starting the day already tired, not from effort, but from mental clutter. She knew exactly how the day would unfold because it had unfolded the same way for years. Busy, scattered, unfinished. She stood in her kitchen, listening to the fire crackle, and felt something heavy settle in her chest. Nothing was changing, and nothing would change unless she did. That realization was painful because it removed all excuses. There was no one to blame, no system to fight against, no external villain. The chaos was coming from inside her choices. She understood then that disorder isn't loud. It hides in small permissions. I'll do it later. It's not a big deal. I don't want to disappoint them. I'll rest after this. Those small permissions were costing her peace. She saw clearly that her life wasn't built intentionally. It was built by default, and default living always leads to exhaustion. That was when she made her second decision, quieter than the first, but harder. She would stop allowing everything. She would choose. She would accept that organization would not feel comfortable at the beginning, that clarity would demand limits, that order would require loss of approval, loss of spontaneity, loss of old habits. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of effort. She was afraid of staying the same. That fear was enough, not to change everything at once, but to start. And she started with one simple, uncomfortable act. She said no. Not loudly, not angrily, without explanation. That single word marked the end of her old life and the beginning of a new, quieter order. Organization did not arrive as comfort, it arrived as resistance. The first days felt heavier, not lighter. Saying no created tension. Finishing what she started exposed how often she used to escape discomfort. Respecting limits forced her to confront habits she had built for years. There was no applause for this phase, no visible reward, only silence and discipline. She began by changing how she treated time. Instead of reacting to the day, she decided what deserved her energy before the day began. Not many things, just the essential ones. Everything else would wait or disappear. That was the first rule taking shape. Then came boundaries. She stopped explaining herself. She learned that every justification invited negotiation. A simple no was enough. Not rude, not cold, clear. Each boundary she respected returned a small piece of her strength. She also stopped breaking promises to herself. If she said she would finish something, she finished it, even when it was boring, even when it was uncomfortable, especially then. This was new. For years, she had been reliable for everyone except herself. She simplified everything. Less tasks, less commitments, less noise. She removed what distracted her and kept only what mattered. Excess, she realized, was not abundance, it was leakage of attention. Every day she did the simple things, not perfectly, not dramatically, but consistently. Sweep the floor, prepare the next day, finish one task fully before starting another. Order didn't arrive in one moment, it accumulated. And slowly, something unexpected happened. Her mind grew quieter, not empty, clear. She noticed she no longer woke up anxious. She no longer carried unfinished thoughts everywhere. The constant urgency began to fade, replaced by intention. People around her sensed the change. She complained less, she reacted less, she explained nothing. And that was part of the rule, too.
She didn't announce her transformation because she understood something essential. Real order does not seek validation. It proves itself through results. By choosing structure over impulse, responsibility over excuse, and silence over performance, she was building a life that could hold her instead of draining her. The pain of discipline had replaced the pain of chaos, and for the first time, the future didn't feel overwhelming. It felt possible.
The transformation did not announce itself. There was no single day where she woke up and felt fixed, no moment where everything suddenly became easy. What changed first was subtle, almost invisible. She began to finish things. Small things at first, tasks she used to abandon halfway, chores she used to postpone, decisions she used to avoid. Each finished action closed a mental loop, and with every loop closed, her mind grew lighter. Time started to feel different, not longer, clearer. She no longer rushed through the day feeling chased by everything at once. She knew what mattered and what didn't, and when something didn't matter, she let it go without guilt. Her limits became visible. She said no without anger. She declined without explanation. She stopped rescuing others at the cost of herself. At first, it felt uncomfortable. Some people reacted. Some didn't understand. But she noticed something important. The world did not collapse when she stopped overextending herself. Instead, her life became manageable. She avoided excess with intention, less commitments, less emotional noise, less mental clutter. What remained was essential. And by doing the simple things every day, even when she didn't feel like it, she built trust with herself. That trust became the foundation of her peace. Responsibility no longer felt like a burden, it felt like freedom. She stopped blaming circumstances, time, fate, other people. Once she accepted full responsibility for both the chaos and the order, she gained something powerful: agency. Her life was no longer happening to her, she was shaping it. She stayed quiet throughout the process. No announcements, no explanations, no need to convince anyone. People noticed anyway. They said she seemed calmer, more grounded, less reactive. She listened, nodded, and changed the subject. She had learned that order speaks best when left alone. Her days became predictable in the best way, not boring, stable. And stability gave her space to think, to choose, to breathe. The silent discipline she practiced daily did what motivation never could. It built a life that didn't depend on mood. And that is when she understood something deeply important. Chaos is loud. Order is quiet. And quiet, when sustained long enough, becomes unshakable. By the time everything began to feel ordered, almost no one noticed when it started. That was the point. Her life didn't change because of one dramatic decision. It changed because of many small ones, repeated quietly, without witnesses. Looking back, she understood that chaos had never come from one big mistake. It had come from small neglects repeated daily. And order, real order, had arrived the same way. Not loudly, not instantly, but permanently. What she built could now be named, not as motivation, not as inspiration, but as rules lived into the body. These were the 10 rules that organized her life, without noise, without speeches, and without empty promises. Care for your time. Time is not something you find, it is something you decide how to use. Respect your limits. Every yes costs something. Learn when the price is too high. Keep your promises, especially to yourself. Trust is built when actions match words, even in private. Do the simple things every day. Order is not complexity, it is consistency. Avoid excess. What is unnecessary steals attention from what matters. Stop justifying yourself. Clarity does not need permission or approval. Maintain constancy. Repetition creates stability. Stability creates peace. Choose what is essential. Not everything deserves your energy. Take full responsibility. Blame keeps you stuck. Ownership sets you free. Build in silence. Let results speak. Order does not perform. It exists. These rules didn't make her life perfect. They made it solid, and solidity gave her something she had been missing for years: peace without explanation. The final truth was simple and impossible to ignore. Disorder is noisy, order is quiet, and real peace never asks to be seen. If this story spoke to you, don't announce your plans. Start quietly. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who lives in constant urgency, and then do the work in silence. Because when your life is finally in order, you won't need to explain anything at all.